Snowball. Ahora, ¿me escuchan ahora? ¿Me escuchan? ¿Me escuchan? Chicos, ¿me escuchan? It seems that there is no audio there. Damn it. Let me try this now. Can you talk, please, Jude? Yeah. Yes, they cannot hear you now. I don't know why. Chicos, ellos lo escuchan. ¿Ustedes escuchan a Jude? ¿A Jude lo escuchan? Almost there. Let me see. Because I'm trying to properties. They confirm me and we start. I'm waiting for they to confirm me if they can hear you, and we are all set. That's weird. No, they can hear you. There must be something weird here. I have no idea why. There is no like a deal. It's weird. Let me try to add this. Captura. Hola. Let me see here. What the fuck? Can you please talk now? Let me see if I can. Oh man. I'm sorry, man, for these technical issues. Never happened, and today it happened. Sorry, man. Let me see how can I fix this. Chicos, si alguien de ustedes sabe cómo solucionar esto, que me ayude, le agradezco mucho. Oh, damn it. It is not taking your audio. I have no idea why. It is mine. They have mine, but they don't get yours. So no idea why. I'm going to try to ask again. Please talk. Nothing. I can hear you. Yes, but I don't know what is the problem there. Yeah, it's like there is no audio for you. I don't know if Discord has the issue. Maybe because we are doing it through Discord, probably. Or not sure. Chicos, ¿qué pasa con ustedes? Estamos teniendo un momento técnico. No, I cannot hear you. It seems not, yeah. Let me try again. Yeah. No idea what it is. It is not taking yours. I'm going to do something again. Let me try this. Let me try this. But it should take the audio from you. Let me now. No. Weird. Oh man. Okay, if you want to, we can try it through Meet. Let's see if that happens. I'm sorry, man. Chicos, qué pena con ustedes. Quiero que me disculpen a los que están en live y los que están en YouTube. Problemas técnicos. Voy a cancelar el live aquí en Instagram y ya miramos. Sorry, man. Let's try through Meet, right? I'm sorry. yeah, I'm going to open one mid session. It's just 40 minutes, but let's see if it's getting better. I don't know why. Chicos en YouTube, discúlpenme por favor. Si pueden ayudarnos con paciencia y todo, les agradezco mucho. Okay. I don't know, where are you? Where are you? I don't know. I can find you. Discord is still active? I don't know how to contact you. Let me see. Okay, you're still there, yeah. So through this chat, I'm going to send you a link for Meet. And let's close this. You entered it? Let me disconnect here. I don't know how to get out of this. Let's try this. No me sirve esto. No funciona, mi amor. Que no pueden escuchar a Jude. Okay. Can you hear me now? I can't hear you now. I cannot hear you. But the problem is that there is no audio in the there is no audio. But I cannot hear you.
Hello, hello.
No. No. Can you talk, please? No, I cannot hear you now. Yeah, I can hear you. Okay. But yeah, but I think they cannot hear you because something's happening with the audio, with your audio. Yes, let's. It should be like an audio.
Is it something on YouTube I need to change?
I think no. I think it should be here. Like, a second. Okay. Talk, please.
Hello, hello, hello.
Okay. I think it's ready.
Are we good?
Let's see. Chicos.
Hello, are we good? Hopefully.
I think so, yes. Chicos, ¿nos escuchan? Por favor, confírmenos.
Hello, hello.
Talk.
Hello.
¿Escuchan a Jude?
Hopefully you people can hear me this time.
Oh, perfecto. We made it.
You good? Awesome.
Woo! We made it, bro. So, I'm trying. You follow Crad Sessions, right? And I follow you, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So the idea is that we shouldn't have a problem if I start the live.
Yeah.
And then to connect to my live. That's
Sure.
that's the idea. Let's try another time. If it doesn't matter, doesn't work, just let's go with your live, and that's fine.
Okay.
So I'm trying to make it now. I'm live. Otra vez, chicos. Let me see. Please join us. And we will ready. Okay. Chicos en YouTube, gracias por la paciencia. Gracias por estar ahí. Ya me escuchan, entonces estamos todo bien por este lado. Let's see. Please enter the live. Okay, so okay, you are now. And I'm going to send you an invite. Okay, I already sent you an invitation.
There's nothing coming through. Here we go.
Okay, yeah. No, but you requested one.
Yep, and it's going through.
Oh, got it. Finally. Oh.
There we go.
Please lower the volume of the phone.
I can't kill it completely though.
No, me neither. But I think it's
okay.
Let's see if first of all, if en YouTube se escucha feo el retorno. Si está muy feo lo paramos. Y si en Instagram nos escuchan bien, excelente. Ya. Let's see. Bien, sin problema. YouTube, sin problema. ¿Funciona? Okay. You can hear the how is it rebounds?
Are you hearing the phone?
Yeah. But
yeah, I can't kill.
If it is not,
audio.
Me neither. Okay. Bueno. Vamos a YouTube, chicos, y después miremos cómo configuramos esto. Okay. Just in YouTube, man. Just in YouTube.
Okay. Yeah.
Later I will try that. Chicos, si alguien sabe después cómo configurar eso en chévere, me ayudan. Ok, entonces, chicos, gracias por su paciencia. Ay, pero no es molesto, ya que me dijeron tarde que no era molesto, les pregunté temprano. Chicos, entonces, bienvenidos a este nuevo Crad Live. Estoy muy emocionado por estar aquí con Jude. Y quiero que todos ustedes, mejor dicho, estén contentos porque vamos a tener una charla muy chévere. Y pues nada, thank you very much, Jude, again for accepting invitation, for being here at the Crad Live. This is like 66 Crad Live, so it's been a long journey. Thank you very much for accepting and welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Pleasure to do it.
Awesome, man. First of all, I'd like to thank you again for being part of the Crad Art Fest. It was a blast, and your talk was like super good. So people were like, "Oh, I'd like to have Jude's me talk. What did he talk about? I want to talk to him." So everyone is like wanting to meet you. So here it is, guys. Please welcome Jude. To start this Crad Live, I'd like to start with asking you to present yourself and tell people that maybe don't know you get to know you better.
Okay, yeah, sure. My name is Jude Smith. I'm a senior concept artist at Respawn Entertainment. I have been working on Apex Legends for about 2.5 years now. And before then, I was working at Blackbird Interactive. And I also was working at Kabam, and I've done some freelance work for Volta and Mighty Canvas.
Awesome. Dude, I'd like to ask you, why did you like being a concept artist for games and not for animation? Because many people like to be like concept artists for cartoony and maybe Disney, Pixar, this kind of stuff. Why did you decide to be like in a different industry?
I've always my interest has always kind of been more in video games. I think video games are a more like involved way of telling stories, and usually like my favorite titles growing up were very like storyline driven. And it's such a new medium too when it comes to like entertainment as well, that I don't feel like has really been explored to the extent that maybe film and animation has right now. And the tech is evolving drastically. We've seen like a huge leap in visuals over the past like 20 years. Um, and I think like artistically too, when I do like a lot of personal work, and I feel like a lot of my style typically fits more like video game styles. Although that being said, like I would love to dip my toes into animation eventually. Would love to do film. I've had offers to do film before, um, but overall, I just really enjoy the process of making video games, and I just think it's a really good fit for me personally.
Awesome. But have you considered sometime like moving to something more stylized or more cartoony, probably?
Sometimes I have had like a hard time like figuring out stylistically what I want to do. Like I feel like I'm always influenced by whatever the hot thing is at the moment. Um, but yeah, I'm very like detail oriented. So anytime I try to do things that are a little more stylized or stripped back, I get too heavy handed again, and it all gets really complicated. And no matter how much I try to simplify things, it ends up becoming what it in you know really detailed kind of pieces.
Awesome. That's great. That's great. Sometimes it's hard, to start doing stylized work and simplify
Yeah,
in that level.
yeah, I'm not good at pulling back and leaving things more shape based and less detail.
Great, great, man. And I wanted to ask you, how did you start working for the industry? Like, it was like your dream job, or maybe eventually it happened. Maybe you were waiting for anything else, and the life turns you to this kind of job or lifestyle, or you always wanted to be like a character designer or a concept artist for games, and you work towards going there.
Mm. Yeah, so my grandmother is a painter, and I'm very close to my grandmother. And growing up, I was always interested in art and drawing because of her. And when I was like a young teenager, 13, 14 ish, I found like the art books for episodes 2 and 3 of Star Wars. And it's a very typical standard, concept artist arc here. But like seeing that artwork being used for entertainment in film and video games, like just kind of blew my mind. And I didn't realize how that there were artists creating artwork specifically for movies, video games, animation, and all that. So I would just like spend hours in a bookstore looking for any kind of books that were similar to that. And I started just like I got like my parents got me like an early version of CS. I think it was CS2. Um, and for a while I was just trying to like just draw in Photoshop and off a little Intuos tablet. And um, and I kind of knew like that's what I wanted to do. But um, when for a while I kind of stopped doing art as like a teenager. I was playing golf really.
Okay.
Like I was going to go pro as a golfer. That was
Awesome.
kind of what I wanted to do when I was a teenager. I got really heavily into it. Art kind of took the back burner. And I got to the point where my instructor was like, you're getting to a level where you either need to go all in or, decide that this really isn't the path that you want to go down to. And I was playing on like a junior tour circuit and everything. But I thought about what he said and was like, you know what? I really, my true like interest and love in life is art. Like, I don't know if I really want to hang up everything else solely to play this sport anymore. And so I decided that I was going to pursue concept art again, and that's when I went into college. And actually, I have a degree in animation, so I was like, I was I always knew that like I wanted to do concept art, and animation was kind of just my window into
Okay.
doing concept art. Every all of my classes and assignments, I would kind of spin the assignments into it being some sort of concepty kind of project. And it was actually when I was in college that actually Respawn announced Titanfall, and so Respawn was always like a really big influence on me as I was getting ready to graduate. I knew that they were a company that like I really wanted to work at, and I think they were the first company I applied to out of college, and I never heard anything back. Um, but I did well in college, and but I was always like, even though I did well in college, I kind of knew my portfolio wasn't really up to the industry standard at the time. So I just kept like in evenings whenever I come home from work, or um, I would spend time rebuilding my portfolio and sending it out, and it took about a year and a half for me to like land a full-time job, and that's when I got in with Kabam, which is like a mobile studio, and I was working on Marvel and Transformer like mobile games for a few years, and then I transitioned over to Blackbird, and when I was at Blackbird for about a year, Respawn reached out. Um, so I feel like super fortunate and really lucky to end up where with Respawn, because that was kind of the goal for a long time, and it just lucked out that it kind of worked out that way. So, but yeah, that was kind of a long dance to the question, but yeah, concept art was something that I've loved for a long time as a kid, and something I've always wanted to do. So I do feel really lucky to be doing it for a living, and with a company that was one of my top choices coming out of college.
Great, man. A lot of questions are going to be out of that statement, and one of those is, are you still playing golf, like for a hobby at least?
Yeah, just a hobby. The competition was just too much for me to handle, and I kept breaking under pressure, and it was starting to take the enjoyment out of it for me. And
Got
it
it.
just got, yeah, I got to the level where they were like, you either need to like put everything aside and just focus on this, or just decide it's not for you. And I just kept thinking about art and how much I enjoyed doing that. I growing up, I was always just sketching in my sketchbooks, taking painting classes and stuff, and that always gave me a lot of fulfillment. Kind of also just like following after my grandmother too. I have a lot of love for her and the artwork that she's done. So um, so there was like that personal connection with art that has kind of carried throughout my life, and yeah, I can't imagine doing anything else.
Right, man. Where did you study?
I went to the Art Institute.
What is that one?
It's just a animation college.
In
Sorry,
where is it based?
all over the place. I think they originally are from Philadelphia, maybe, or New York, but I went to the one that was in Northern Virginia.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you studied in the States.
Yes,
And
yeah, I'm from the States originally, and then
you're from the
yeah,
States.
yeah, I'm from the States originally, and then when I got hired by my first studio, they that's how I ended up in Vancouver. And I was on a 6 month contract, and they liked me enough to keep me on the team, so they extended my contract for a year. And then they also helped me out after that to apply for a permanent residency. So now I'm here in Canada, in Vancouver, permanently. So
That's pretty good, man. Because I thought since the beginning, since the Crad Fest, I thought you were Canadian. So that's great.
No,
I know.
yeah.
Chicos, Jude Smith es de Estados Unidos, no es de Canadá. Chicos, si tienen preguntas para Jude, láncense y pregunten. Listo, la idea es que podamos hacer esta charla un poco jodedora. Let me say hi to the people that are connected now. Martín Quinteros, is it here? Thank you very much for connecting. Edwin Padilla, Jan Reyes, Jan, un abrazo hermano. Nat Amarillo, ¿qué más? Andrés Martínez, un fuerte abrazo hermano. All of them are really fans of your work, man.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot.
Eric Fan is still here. Sebastián Chacín, excelente. And Martin Quintero says, I love Jude's designs, especially those from Apex Legends.
Thank you.
How do you prepare to be a speaker at the Lightbox Expo? Oh, this he started for the last subject.
Well, thankfully, I've been through the ringer a few times at this point. So I'll be on a panel with some really talented artists, Michael Uwandi and Drew Hartle, I think. Hartley. I hope I'm saying that right. Sorry, Drew. Harder. But yeah, so it's gonna be a really good talk, and yeah, super casual, just talking about like breaking in the industry and some of the hurdles that we kind of go through during this era of the industry. There's been a lot of shifts in the industry, so I think we're just going to cover a lot of those kinds of topics.
Great, man, that's great. People that cannot be there at LA, I guess Lightbox is going to have like as well Zoom or through internet. I'm not sure, but you should ask in Lightbox if you can go there and join us. I wanted to ask also in the previous talk you were talking about having a portfolio that was like meeting the industry standards. I know that's super important, but I'd like you to tell the people and tell me, what are the industry standards? How do we know? How do artists that are starting, how do artists that are pursuing the dream, of being a character artist for games, know what is the industry standards?
The best way to approach like industry standards is to really like do your research on the studios you're interested in working for, the types of projects that you're interested in working on, and really take a peek at the work that is done on those projects, and take the time to self-reflect and evaluate your own work, and compare it to the work that's being done. And you want to kind of like mirror kind of their workflows, how they handle style, how they handle detail, form language, those sorts of aspects, and translate that over into your own work. But you want to do it in your own creative way and voice. And because a lot of companies, they want to see that you're creative and you can think on your own and not just kind of mimic or be necessarily a copycat. They want to see that you can bring something new to the table. But yeah, I think it takes a lot of research and just really observing, the work that's out there being done for specific companies and projects.
Awesome. There is another important question here, and it is, okay, we do the research, we know what is the industry standards, There's some always difficult to understand if my level, if their levels are in the industry standards, and that's because sometimes if we don't have enough experience, we don't know if our work is good enough or our work really meets the industry standards. Sometimes we tend to see our work like maybe it's too bad. Sometimes we tend to look at like maybe it is too good than it really is. How do you measure that? Like you have like someone mentor you, telling you, hey, you're not there yet, and then you're ready for it, or probably you yourself you have like a really good eye, saying, "Hey, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet, and I will be there soon." And how was that part?
Yeah, so there's a few ways that I approach that. I think definitely like doing portfolio reviews or reaching out to professionals and asking for feedback and their honest opinion on your work is is super helpful. I've done that. I do it all the time. I still do it to this day. Um, and then also being consistent with like applying to companies. Um, there were definitely times early on when I would submit my work out and I would just take a shot. And I knew that maybe I wasn't quite qualified, but I would just send it out anyway if it was something that I was interested in. Um, and and sometimes when you're speaking with recruiters or you get to the second round of interviews and you speak with art directors, um, sometimes you'll hear feedback on why maybe they passed on you and going through those routines of like interviewing, going through those routines of portfolio reviews, really just observe and take in the information that they're giving to you and really begin to like translate that over into your work and improve, focus on those areas, um, and your work will slowly begin to improve and get better, and you'll be able to figure out exactly what it is art directors and recruiters are looking for.
Okay, that's pretty good and pretty new. I haven't heard that. That kind of routine could help us, getting feedback and direct feedback from the art directors, and it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Let me give me 5 minutes, 3 minutes to translate that to people. Chicos, Jude acaba de dar un par de datos muy, muy importantes, así que los que están ahí, recuerden que igual si está en inglés, eso tendremos subtítulos dentro de YouTube, así que les puede servir después. Pero entonces, importante acá e interesante. Una es que para tener en cuenta los estándares de la industria es importante que ustedes hagan su investigación y sepan a qué estudios quieren aplicar, ¿cierto? A qué estudios quieren llegar y ver qué tipo de trabajo están haciendo los artistas de esos estudios. De esa forma pueden saber en qué nivel están las personas que trabajan donde ustedes quieren trabajar y conocer los estándares de la industria. Y por otro lado, para que ustedes sepan si están o no están en el tipo de estándar, lo que dice Jude es que es muy bueno hablar de feedbacks, de esperar, escribirle como a los estudios, escribirle como a los reclutadores, aplicar ofertas de trabajo, así no estén seguros si están listos o no, porque muchas veces cuando pasen los filtros y llegan los directores de arte, muchas veces les dicen las razones por las cuales de pronto no pasaron o si pasaron al trabajo. Y ese feedback es un feedback directo de la industria que les va a servir muchísimo a ustedes más adelante para poder mejorar su trabajo. ¿Listos? Okay, sorry man. So
No worries.
that's great. That's great. Well, you said you studied in the States. You said you then came to Vancouver.
Yeah.
You're now working for it could be kind of a dream job because you started looking forward when you were out of this college, and now you're working at it. So congratulations for that. That's really really good.
Thank you.
That's awesome, man. Okay, so after you graduated, how was like the transition for you to look for a job? Were you looking for something in the States, or you were looking like anything everywhere, just finding the first job in the industry, and then it appears to be in Vancouver, and then how was that story?
So that was a very trying time of my life / career, you could say. I was applying everywhere. I was really desperate to find work. I was taking any kind of odd job I could. I was taking really random projects that weren't really paying anything either, but I was doing anything to kind of beef up my resume to make myself look as professional as possible. And also my daughter was born right as I was graduating from college. So she was actually born right before I graduated. So there was a lot of pressure that I was feeling to, be able to provide for, my new family. My career hadn't even taken off at this point yet, and I was working this little graphic design job that, it wasn't great, but it was at least,
Providing.
somewhat, yeah, they weren't paying a ton either, but it was enough that we were getting by. And 3 months into the job, they fired me, and they kind of just came out of nowhere and let me go. And it it was really hard because I felt like I was like, you know, I did so good in college. I was at the top of my class, but here I am after school and I can't find work. I couldn't hold this graphic design job that, was at least somewhat artistic for my small little town. That was as artistic of a job that I could get back in my hometown. And I couldn't even hold that. And it was like a year, and I couldn't get a break with any studio. I kept having interview after interview fall through. Um, and I remember there was one evening about a year and a half after graduating where I sat down with my wife, and I told her, I was like, I don't know if I'm really cut for this career, to be honest. Like, this has been a year of this, and I'm running out of like work. The graphic design job fell through, um, and I told her that I was going to apply to Walmart and McDonald's just so that um, I could bring some money in, and I thought that would probably kill my career because working 40 hours a week trying to draw on top of that in the evening just was a lot, and I had been doing that for a while. But it was literally a week after that conversation was when the studio that I got my first break with reached out, and the rest was history. So um, it was a struggle, but I just thankfully had a very supportive family. My wife thankfully has always been extremely supportive, um, and I stuck with it and just kept reworking my portfolio, kept grinding away, kept applying, listening to the feedback people gave me, and eventually it worked out.
How old were you in the moment?
23.
23. Yeah, that's a lot for a 23-year-old guy, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
it was definitely a lot. But I tried to just stay determined and not let it shake me too much. But yeah, I'm glad that it all worked out.
awesome, that's
So,
great, man. And now you're a superstar now. That's great.
trying to be.
It's hard to be a superstar.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. And that's great because that's a good story. Because in Colombia and in Latin America, a lot of people have the same hurry
Mm.
that you were saying, and we just like we are young people, 22, 23, and we desperately want to work in the industry. And the thing is that we sometimes we don't have the portfolio standards, as you said, so we try and we keep, and sometimes people quit because
Yeah.
it's not easy. And they tell me like, hey man, how do you tell us that keep working on it if we have bills to pay, we have like a place to pay, we have probably kids, whatever, and we don't get the job.
Yeah.
So what I tell to them is like, hey, I know it's hard, but sometimes if you have the passion and if you really like to work on it, you can make it. For example, I say it happened to me. Like I worked in different industries for some time, and it was like a 40 hour job in a week. but I had to work afterwards, like until 2 a.m. in the morning, and it wasn't easy, but eventually it will happen. So one day, an artist told me that if you work and you get better and you are disciplined, eventually it's going to happen. So of course, I didn't have a kid. I didn't have a family that, like my own separate family in that moment. So it was easier for me. But what you say is like a really good example of struggling but making your way out to live the dream.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think going through the motions and a little bit of a struggle is important for your development as an artist as well. This industry isn't easy. Art isn't easy. It's not meant to really be easy, um, and and you have to be able to like handle these hurdles to really develop yourself. And I'm I think it's super important to just be self-disciplined and humble, and just accept when you're able to like accept that you aren't where you want to be. You begin to like observe and take in all of the information around you. um, YouTube is a great source of all this like free information. And if you just do some research, you follow tutorials, and you really just take in that information and practice, um, you can get there. And it doesn't matter where you're from, what background, whatever. Like, um, anyone can make it. It just kind of comes down to self discipline and dedication.
That's great, man. That's great. And um, I wanted to say that sometimes people in Colombia and people in Latin America believes of things that for people that are born in the States is easier,
Mm.
because the industry is there.
Yeah.
But I heard I was last week in LA, and I was in the Silver Summit, and one artist told me that doesn't matter if you were born in the States or wherever you want to be. In this moment, you can work wherever you are,
Yeah.
because the remote work is like super fancy right now.
Yeah.
And even people that are born in the States, if they're not good enough, they don't get to work in the industry. So
Yeah.
the thing is, you have to be good enough. You need to be good. So you can be in Colombia, you can be in Argentina, you can be in Mexico or in the States. If you are not good enough, you are not to get into the industry. So the invitation for you guys right now is that one. Understand that people in everywhere in the world, of
Mm.
course, sometimes have some difficulties different than others, but the idea is to keep working and keep being better and practice to be good enough so companies can hire you. If you're not good enough, doesn't matter where you're born, you're not going to get the job. So as Jude said, it wasn't easy to get out of school and get a job. Like, it happens sometimes. For example,
Yeah.
we think that, for example, from people that go out from Nomon School of Arts, or Ringling School, it's like easier to get a job right after school. But if you're not good enough, you're not going to get it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, definitely colleges, having like a diploma is helpful for like if you're trying to immigrate to another country. I think that was a big bonus for me having a diploma to get into Canada. But I agree with you like 100%. Like, really, like, art comes down to your skill sets and your ability. So as long as you are good, the credentials don't really matter. And companies, especially like big ones, will find a way to hire you or bring you over. So this creative field or industry, it comes down to your skill sets.
Chicos, ya saben, entonces motivados a seguir practicando. Recuerden que no importa dónde nacieron, sino lo que importa es la calidad de su trabajo. ¿Listos? Entonces, a meterle, a darle, y yo sé que a veces, como dijo Jude, no es fácil, y a veces esos problemas que podemos tener a nivel emocional ayudan un poquito a fortalecer ese poder artístico, así que a darle con toda. We have a question here. It is from Martin. I think Martin is a really
Okay.
good fan of yours. Okay, so you have to follow him back. I'm not sure. I'm just kidding. But yeah, Martin Quinteros is. So he says, apart from working at Respawn, you have projects like personal projects, or you just put your life in doing work, like professional work?
Um, Really, I've kind of valued my personal work the most. So I occasionally I've done freelance work on top of the work that I do, but since being at Respawn, um, I feel like the professional work is kind of in line with what I like to do. Um, Overall. So I don't feel the need to kind of go find other projects to work on. So I spend my free time just doing personal work. That's what I really love to do the most, to be honest.
That's great, man. That's pretty good. I've had some. For example, I have a full time job, and then it's great. I work as a character artist, but I have recently like different freelances,
Yeah.
and the thing that I like of them is like sometimes it's different, and I have
Mhm.
more freedom to do some stuff that probably I cannot do it at my full time job.
Yeah.
But it's extreme. It's extreme. It was 3 months of not having proper sleep. Didn't
Yeah.
go out with my girlfriend because I couldn't.
Yeah.
Sunday, Saturdays working out, and that's at the end, it is not worth it. I mean, sometimes it's like,
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you because like I did it for like 6 months, I think, on top freelancing on top of the professional work. And yeah, it was great to like be able to beef up the resume and stuff, but um, being able to work on a handful of other projects, it doesn't like it didn't make me feel like more fulfilled as an artist, and I feel fulfilled as an artist when I'm pushing myself and I can feel myself improving and doing like work that I'm like really interested in. And that's when that's why I care so much about like doing personal work, and why you still see like on my art station I I post like personal work here and there, is because it's just because I just love creating art for myself, and that's really what I want to do the most.
that's great, and it's a really good advice. It touched me because fuck, it was a crazy 3 months of work. And yeah, I was wondering, how do you take the time to do, like, how valuable is the time you have for personal work? Do you like schedule it, or you have the time to do it, or how do you manage to work on personal stuff?
Um, well, thankfully, my schedule is pretty like straightforward these days. So usually I just spend my evenings, once the kid goes to bed or whatever, and it's the evening has calmed down. I spend my a few hours every evening just doing my own thing. So um, yeah, there's not a lot of pressure or anything. It's just whenever I have the time.
Awesome. That's great. That's great. We have a question here, and this is an interesting question, because it has like a different, like a debate in there.
Okay.
And this guy Santana, hi man. It says, can I get a job in the industry if I am a 2D artist only?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm mostly a 2D artist. I use a little bit of 3D, but for Respawn, I haven't done any 3D. Um, So the thing that I've also noticed throughout I've been working in the industry for maybe 7 years, is that workflow doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter whether you work in film, games, animation. As long as you can get the end result that your client is looking for, then whatever workflow you want to use is perfectly fine. Um, certain tools will help you maybe get certain looks. a lot of film people use a lot of 3D because you can light it very cinematically. You can send up multiple, a whole scene and do multiple shots really quickly. But I know a lot of film artists as well who are mostly just 2D. So, and then at Respawn on the internal concept team, we have somewhere around 20 concept artists working on Apex alone, um, and each one of us has a vastly different workflow. Some of us are very heavy into Blender and 3D. Then the other half of us are all 2D. So again, like really, it comes down to what is your preference, what makes you feel most confident, what helps you get the job done quickest or most conveniently to you, and your style and your taste. That's all that matters. That's all that you really need to consider.
That's great, man. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'd say it's a debate because a lot of people say like the industry is moving towards 3D. Like both concept artists, both visual development is going to start being more 3D. Also because I came from the Zero Summit and it was like 3D, 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 and I saw like different conferences about 3D being used as concept art for films, Avatar and stuff. So yeah, as you said, probably it's because of the cinematic lighting.
Yeah, but I've been hearing that my entire career. Like everybody has been saying that for as long as I've been doing this. That like even before I even got into the industry, everybody said 3D, 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 and it's just a tool. It's just another tool to help you figure things out, to develop yourself as an artist. And I think it's good to learn those things. Like don't get me wrong, and I don't think it's good to be stagnant and to kind of pin yourself specifically one way or another. Coming out of college, I hated 3D. I had a terrible experience learning it in college. I didn't like it. I refused to use it for so long. And then I signed up, once I graduated, I signed up for Jama did a 3D code course, and Alex Fagini did a ZBrush course through Learn Squared. And I took both of those classes. And I started to learn it, and I really started to enjoy using 3D. And even like today, like I'm using a Blender for like a personal piece right now to kind of set up a scene, and but like I'm very like basic with it. I'm not stressing about like being the greatest 3D artist, 3D concept artist, or anything. It really doesn't matter as long as it helps you. They're just tools to help you in your workflow. And I've been in this for long enough now and seen enough artists and worked with enough artists to tell you like people do like to stress about that thing, different mediums or programs, but the industry evolves constantly, and I've never seen I don't think you need to be specific one way or the other. And there are so many rock star 2D concept artists out there that I don't see 2D going anywhere.
Awesome, man. That's very good and pretty encouraging for all of the two people as well. Okay, DFF. I don't know your name. Please put your name so I can call you for your name. So DFF says, quick question. For your portfolio, what can be done as to balance between something recognizable, for example, the Mononoke Princess, and something 100% original? I imagine that how can you balance, the styles so you can do something original and making it still recognizable, I guess it's that question.
So kind of like blending genres or themes and stuff.
Yeah, and put your own style on top of it.
So like with Mononoke, I was kind of doing it as like to test myself and my design skills. With that one, with Mononoke, there's a very specific way. The way she's like looks, her design is very specific to how Ghibli is telling the story by looking at her as a character, and um, I think it's really important to think about backstory and story in general when you're designing characters or working, making concept work. Um, so the idea with that Mononoke piece was like, okay, how do I retain what the core aspects of Mononoke, what makes her Mononoke, but also bring in elements of like sci-fi that I find really intriguing and say something personal about me within this already established character. So um, it's kind of just taking apart those details about Mononoke, like her mask, and keeping the silhouette and the colors, but then adding like hard surface details. Even like the silhouette of her like outfit. She's wearing like this like white like shawl or like robe over the top. So I'm bringing in like these key elements, but then adding like hard surface details or sci-fi details and cut lines and stitching and stuff to kind of recreate her design, but also um, staying true to it, but showing it in a new light. So that was kind of the challenge there, was thinking about those storytelling elements, and how I can stay true to that, but also bring something new um, to the core design.
Great, man. His name is Camilo. He says, okay. He says they don't want to see, most of the time they don't want to see something already done, and most of the time it's hard to come up with something original. But I believe it's already answered.
Um, is this like referring to like coming up with like a task and doing something original, but obviously everything is kind of inspired by, sort of? I'm assuming that's kind of how this question is being.
I understand it like how, I mean, that people or recruiters want to see something original, but sometimes it's hard to
Oh,
find.
okay.
It's hard to come up with some original ideas.
Okay, I see what you mean.
And he said that maybe sometimes people don't want to see like kind of fan arts or something like something that already exists. So I guess that's the way of the question.
Okay, yeah, sure. Actually, yeah. So that is a good question. I so actually the Mononoke piece is kind of how I got the job at Respawn, and I think what the reason that it grabbed people's attention was um, because like the details that I kind of was pulling from a little bit was like looking at like how Apex handles like their designs, and then like transferring that over to like Mononoke, and I blended my themes and came up with something different um, that still felt familiar to people. And so I think I think people like put too much emphasis on sometimes, or stress out too much about like I need to come up with this never before seen like idea. And it's not so much that you need to necessarily come up with the next, new thing. It's more that you need to just trust your creative instincts, look around at what inspires you, and think about like your own stories. What is it you want to say about your work? What is the story you want to tell with your concept, your character? And really like take the time to think out that backstory, maybe write notes out about who this character is, where they come from, what is their background, what is their purpose, the tools they might use, and then um, like gather reference to like things that kind of fit that theme, or and really just like um, pull from you could pull from that, but do it in like your own way. Don't just sit there and like do simple like fan art or anything. But because you're creating like this backstory, this original idea in your head, your influence and all these ideas and your experience will translate over eventually within your work, and you'll create like your own interesting pieces. It kind of just takes experience and time and repetition, figuring out the styles that you like, what you don't like, and working it in your own way and going through those motions, and eventually like you'll figure out you'll have your own creative voice. But I don't stress about like having to come up with the next great thing or anything.
Great. That's pretty good advice, man. Let me
Yeah.
translate this one a bit. Chicos, muy bueno porque habla de seguir ese instinto creativo, ¿sí? Y no dejarse, digamos, llevar por crear su mejor pieza o la pieza más original del universo, porque de esa forma uno se estresa, ¿sí? Entonces más bien tratar dejarse llevar, creer en en su corazón, en su instinto creativo, en su corazón también, ¿sí? Y contar eso que ustedes quieren contar con el estilo que ustedes quieren tener y a través de una historia que ustedes quieran poner en su personaje. No siempre tiene que ser como no se estresen pensando en que debe ser lo más original o lo nuevo del mundo. ¿Listos? Voy a ir respondiendo a la pregunta de Camilo. Okay, man. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really get I really like the one of believing in your creative instinct. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I had last time I went to the Trojan Horse in 2022, and
Mm-hmm.
I met an art director. I don't know, not remember the name of the studio. He was like a character art director, and he was like, okay, creating a character is not about describing and having like some characteristics and having some checklist. It's not about that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's important to have that in your face, but
Sure.
it's more about believing in yourself.
Yeah.
Start doing, believe your instinct, whatever it is, blah 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 blah, and of course having those parts in mind. But it's not a list of attributes. A character is not or shouldn't be a list of attributes. Should be like a creative, kind of wave of inspiration, kind of that. So it was a bit philosophical, but at the end it ends up being what you said, following your creative instinct.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. Because like, I had a portfolio review once with Marco Durovic. He's the art director, or I don't know if he's still art directing, but he runs Six More Vodka. It's his studio. Him and his wife
Awesome.
are like the art directors. It's their studio. But he's a very strong like character concept artist and illustrator. Um, but there was a time in my career where I felt like I was plateauing. I wasn't sure how to take myself to the next level. And I went to him because I knew he would be brutally honest with me and give me honest opinion about my portfolio. And he was not impressed with it at all. I was mentally prepared to be like ripped apart, but I wasn't prepared for how much he ripped me apart. And honestly, it was the best thing that I had ever heard. And he was like, you have no identity, basically. When I look at your portfolio, it's so, it's very generalist. Like I don't see any identity behind your work. There's too much detail, lots of noise. Like I can't focus on anything. So he was like, you really need to think about storytelling. What is it you're saying? What is it you want to tell? And start building your ideas around an idea. And so that's when like my portfolio, like if you look at my art station, you can see like a clear line between when I was like doing some more key arty and like environment stuff, and then it kind of goes hard into characters. And the reason for that was because after that critique, I started thinking, okay, like how do I draw a character and only show a character and that just by looking at it, you could tell who this character is, what I'm trying to say about it, what their purpose is, etc. And so, I really think a lot now about storytelling and purpose and having a purpose for that character. Um, and I think that's when my career started like taking off a lot more, was after that, and not stressing about like you say, it has to be the coolest like idea, or it needs to hit all these check marks or whatever. It's those subtleties of a personality, of backstory, that really give characters flavor and intrigue and interest in their design. So yeah, and it takes time and experience to develop that.
That's great, man. That's great. We hope that answers your question, Camilo. And yeah, I love you. Nowadays, after you have this portfolio review, I mean, first of all, I would like to tell the people how important it is to have this kind of connections and portfolio reviews with artists that are already in the industry, and they have the experience that you were talking about previously. How much do you think that kind of interaction has helped you?
Like my previous jobs before reaching Respawn.
Like reaching in your, because I know that every time we always need some kind of feedback. So even nowadays, how important could it be, like having portfolio reviews with your any artist that you want to?
Oh, for me to do portfolio reviews?
To receive critics, yeah.
Yeah, so in the beginning I did it a lot more because obviously I was less experienced and needed more direction. So these days I don't necessarily go out and do like a, run through like a panel and get my portfolio necessarily reviewed, but often when I'm working on like a piece, whether if it's a work piece, I'll speak to my like a coworker, or if it's a personal piece, I'll reach out to other artist friends of mine, or if there's like a really an artist that I really respect and admire, sometimes I'll reach out and just be like, hey, would love your thoughts on this. Like I'm struggling with this piece, or maybe I just want general feedback on what their thoughts are. So occasionally I still do that, just especially when I feel stagnant or just stuck in my work. I will get feedback or critiques, but definitely at this point in my career, it's a lot more specific. But it's also because I have more experience. I understand the way I like to work better. But yeah, I do still get feedback and critiques. It's just a little more targeted or specific.
But that's important as well. I mean, even if it is for a friend or something, maybe sometimes it's important to have like any kind of feedback that maybe from the eyes of a third person is going to be like looking better. Sometimes if you looked at the same picture for months or for days, at the end of the day, it looks like the same. For you is the best. But maybe if you show it to another one, maybe that person could really stands up the points that probably are not so good at, and you didn't see them.
Yeah, well, usually it's because I hate it so much. I'm tired of looking at it, and,
that happens.
And then I get someone's feedback, and they're like, "You're fine, just keep going." And then it ends up doing fine.
When you have done too much time on each piece, maybe sometimes it's like, I don't want to see that shit anymore. Like I will publish it and I will start another one because that's it.
Yeah, I go through a roller coaster of emotions with each piece, where I love it in the beginning, and then after getting through the sketch and I start rendering, I'm like, I hate this, it looks bad. And then it starts getting to the end, I'm like, I think I like it. And then as I'm polishing, I'm like, I don't think I like this anymore. I'm like, just get it out, and I don't want to look at it. So
that's awesome, man. That's great.
Yeah.
I had a piece that it was my portfolio. I worked on it a lot because I didn't have like the time on it, so it was like months of working on it. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm going to put it like this, and I'm going to publish it, and whatever. And I showed the portfolio in the summit, and a guy was like, it's super good, but probably you should need some more specular in this. And I was like, it was super good feedback because I didn't see
Yeah.
I haven't seen that, and it was super there. But now I have to come back to the
Yeah,
to
dude,
the model.
that drives me crazy too.
Yeah.
When you're like, I think this is great, and then someone just has like this small little idea. You're like, that is so much better. Why didn't I think of that?
That's yeah.
But it's good to hear that, and it's you know, um, I think that's also a key reason why like hearing feedback is important because you have those moments where it kind of like unlocks
And sometimes it's
a
like
thing for you. Yeah.
super specific that probably you didn't know. I mean, I don't work like a character designer, as I told you last time.
Yeah.
But I like to start to do it, and I have received so good reception and so good feedback on it. But I was like asking for a Korean girl. I don't remember her name. She's super nice at designing stuff. And I asked her for general feedback about a piece, and she said me like, you should put just like a ton of this in the hand, and it's going to be better. And I was like, she was. I just needed to put like a pixel of gold, in one hand, and yeah, I was like, they think different, like it helps a lot.
Yeah, that's happened to me so many times. I can think of times where like I asked like a coworker for feedback and they were like, I felt really good about it. I thought they were going to be impressed. And then they saw it and they're like, it's good, but like you should do this and this and this. And I would be like, I want to fight them on it. But then I did it and I was like, yeah, that's way better. I should just listen to that.
Yeah, sometimes we are so close in our in our model that sometimes
Yeah.
like we didn't see like the whole picture. That's great.
It's hard not to take it personally sometimes.
I had a lot of years ago, like 7 years ago, in the first training course I went, there was a guy that told us, don't publish the piece after you finish it. Publish it at least 1 or 2 days after you finish it, because when you are going back, probably you don't publish it. Probably you're going to look something that you didn't see the day that you were going to publish. Mainly for that, because of we are so tired of it that we just want to put it out.
Yeah, that's probably good advice. I should probably take that more often.
Could be. I think it's a good idea. He was Jose Alves da Silva, a really nice guy,
Okay.
a really good friend.
Okay.
Okay, Santana Art asks you, how did you become a better storyteller? That's a really good question, Santana. That's really good.
Honestly, for me, it's pretty simple. It's just like studying, it's simple. It's just like watching movies and really like paying attention to how they handle storytelling, how they handle their shots to describe what's going on. Same for video games. Like, some of my favorites are like the Last of Us games or BioShock, games that have really strong stories. And as I'm playing through them, I'll play through games multiple times. I'll watch, a movie multiple times just to try to like have a better understanding of, why they are catering the scenes or shots to you specifically, the way they do, and understanding how it relates to the story. And so it's just kind of like, it's just basic studying. And then, reading books helps too. But yeah, it's nothing like too strenuous. It's just paying extra attention when you're consuming like content and figuring out the specific reasons as to why they made those decisions that they do.
Awesome. That's pretty good. Look at movies, pay attention of every detail, and that's super helpful.
Yeah.
Like every time you see like a scar, it's because something happened before, and that's pretty good. That's pretty nice. Jude, we are getting the final chapter of the talk. I'd like to ask you before we leave. Can you give please some advice for artists that are trying to get into the industry, maybe are struggling, maybe as you said, how can they improve? for example, I hear there are some guys that are trying to get into the industry as character designer. They are getting better. I have seen the improvement, but sometimes they need like you know this, like maybe this is the standard and you are like this and you need this, you need like a small step to be there. What kind of advice can you give to them and people that are trying to get into the industry?
I think, unfortunately, it's going to be a very typical answer, but I really think it comes down to really doing the research on what it is specifically you want to do. I think in the beginning of my career, it was hard for me to catch my break because I was all over the place with my portfolio. I figured that if the more diverse I was, if I showed stylized stuff, if I showed realism, if I showed fantasy and sci-fi, and just I blasted this wide range of work, from characters, key art, environment work, props. That was my whole portfolio, and I think it made it hard for art directors and recruiters when looking at my portfolio to figure out where does this guy even fit into our projects, or especially with AAA companies. AAA companies are big, and usually when you go on to a AAA project, you're probably going to spend the most of your time working on very specific tasks. For Respawn, for me, it's mostly characters. I mostly just do characters. I do key art. Sometimes I do a little bit of props, but the overall majority of my work is characters. And so really take the time to consider what is it you really want to do, and really focus your work on that. If you want to do environments for, cyberpunk, you should be researching all sorts of cyberpunk movies, games, and all that. And you should be looking at how, people handle those environments, how they tell stories through those environments. And you should think about what it is you want to say and start tailoring your portfolio in that kind of fashion. And it's going to make it easier for recruiters and art directors to be like, okay, we're looking for someone who's going to fit this specific project. This guy has a great portfolio that's filled with all this stuff that we're kind of looking for. And it makes it much easier for them to find out how you would work on their team, rather than when you're kind of all over the place. It just makes it really confusing for directors and recruiters to figure out how you would even fit on their team.
Pretty good, huh? Be specific, be specific. Yeah. That's pretty good.
Yeah, the more specific you can be, the better. And you don't have to bog yourself down in the beginning too with I know a lot of people in the beginning are I need to find my style. I need to rush and figure out what my style or thing is. But I would push back a little bit on that. Take the time to try different things, because all that you're going to learn as you try different styles, as you try different workflows. You're going to learn what works for you, how you can push things out. The broader your knowledge is, the better you can take all that and relate it back into specifically what it is, and it will help enrich your creative voice and make you stand out more. So definitely do explore, try different things, try different styles, try different workflows, but then bring that back into what it is specifically you want to do with your portfolio, and it will really help you stand out and really help you shape your creative voice and make it so much easier for people to relate to what they see coming out of your work and figure out how, who it'll make it easier for people to be like, yeah, we want to hire you. You would be a great fit for this project.
That's pretty good, man. And Santana says, thank you. I don't know what is SM, but thank you, I guess, very much for doing these live streams. Andres, okay, it's for me. Jude, I think we had like a really good time here. I'd really like to talk to you. We need to keep talking. Maybe next time it's going to be there in Vancouver or in Canada.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I will let you know.
Awesome. Let's do it.
We can have a beer there. So my friend, thank you very much. It was pretty nice, pretty good. Thank you for being here. Thank you for accepting the invitation. I really had a really good time with you. I think the time goes like super fast because I enjoyed it. So thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Chicos, a todos ustedes, gracias nuevamente por haberse conectado en este nuevo Crad Live. 66 Crad Lives, vayan a verlos todos. Tenemos ahí muchas entrevistas, también tenemos el en vivos con artistas, tenemos tutoriales, 1000 cosas más. Vayan a revisarlos, invitados y atentos porque tenemos sorpresas como esta para ustedes. Así que chicos, un gran abrazo para todos. I was just telling that they're coming a lot of surprises here. Actually, I met a really good artist in the summit. His name is Sander Smith. One day he'll be here with us, and I told him about your work, and he was like, okay, I remember the Mononoke design. I don't remember this guy Jude Smith, but I have seen his work, so that's pretty good. So, chicos, gracias a todos. Thank you very much, Jude. Por favor, sigan Crad, sigan Sesiones Crad en YouTube, sigan en Instagram, que se vienen más cosas. Ustedes saben que no soy youtuber, pero pues denle like a esto, suscríbanse, que cada vez esto ayuda para que sigamos creciendo y que más personas puedan conocerlo. Así que compártanlo y un abrazo para todos ustedes, chicos. Chao, chao. Jude, thank you very much, man. Let me finish this session here.